and some of you don't have, just one or two of you still don't have this. And once again, if you did extra credit, you need to say yes. You cannot say no. you did it, right? So say yes. And so for the Chapter 8 project, you will just simply say project number. You don't have to say anything, or you can say instructor designed. Okay. For this class, this is the student class, and this is the one in the book that asks you to overload the constructor, write another constructor that accepts a set of scores. So one constructor will accept, this is the original constructor that is in the book. However, if you remember, I kept saying this, the purpose of your constructor is to initialize all instance variables. So even though you do not accept the past scores, you still have to initialize them. That's what that meant. Okay, you have to initialize them. That's one. And this is the overloaded constructor. Okay, so for this constructor, you are accepting everything, right? Including the 3 test scores. And you just initialize the current instance variable here to whatever this test score is. Okay, and that's the 2 constructors, overloaded constructors. Some of you simply have a constructor like this. I think several of you just did public student. Okay, is that okay? That's okay. You are creating a placeholder, and you are not you don't have an actual values for this student. It's just a placeholder. That's fine, but you still need to initialize all these instance variables. Okay, so first name, you don't have anything. You just say first, for example, you just initialize it to something. Okay, and last, you just say last. Or you can simply initialize it to 0. Or no, this is the home address. You don't have any home address, so it's no, right? There is no address. Address is a class, so you don't initialize it to empty space. You initialize it to null. That means there is no address because it's an object. Okay, so that's how you do that. If you did this constructor, that's how you do that. If you did this constructor, this is how. And if you did this construct, if you did all 3, that would be great. That means no matter how, you will be able, no matter what, you will be able to create a student. Okay, so set student score. This is you accept 1 test number, accept 1 test score, and based on the test number, you assign the test score, right? That's an if-else statement. And this is the get test score. Based on the test number you give me, I will give you back whichever test score it should be. So this student, assign it to grade and return it, right? Okay, that's how you do the get test score. And then the average, you just add them together, divided by 3. And this student remembered to cast this into a double and then divide by 3 so that you have the accurate decimal places. Okay, so, and then you return it, that's the average. And to string, you just formatted, this student formatted it and output all the strings, and including the average. Remember, this average is not necessary, but it's nice that you include it, but it's not necessary. The reason is it's not an instance variable, right? Because once you have all 3 test scores, you can calculate the average yourself as a client program. But this class is just providing the convenience of calculating it for you. You see, you can say get test score 1, get test score 2, get test score 3, and add them together and do the division. But so that's why this is not absolutely necessary, but it's nice to have it there. Okay, that is the student class. Where is it? I think it's here. Let's look at the, oh, I have it here. The address class, all of you included this, that's good. And this student included the header in every class. Actually, you do not need to do that. If you remember, I said you just need to put it in the driver, okay? But if you put them in all three, that's great. I just didn't want you to take the time to do that. Just make sure you put it in the driver class. Okay, so this is the student body. And if you notice the student, the documentation, that's the documentation, right? Okay, if I say you didn't have documentation, this is documentation. This tells you what your code is doing, documentation. Okay, that's the 5 points. Okay, let's look at the student body. So create the address, and then this student is doing, the address, and then he or she printed out the address, right? Oh no, just create it, just telling the user, because I said when you test it, make sure it's informative. So he is telling the user, okay, the user what this program is doing step by step, and student 1 created excellent testing. So if you look at this student, this is using the original constructor, right? And this is using the original constructor. And this one is using the overloaded constructor. That's what I meant when I say you need to test both constructors. So that's that. And this student tested both constructors. One accepts the scores, one does not accept any test scores. Okay, and then he is testing the toString method. Look at this informative information, right? Testing the toString method, that's the object. And testing the new student method, set test score. So he's setting the test score, testing 1, 2, 3. And then he tested tested get test score, right? That's set and get, and then tested average. So all the methods are being tested. And if I say you didn't test this method, you didn't test that method, that's what I meant. Test the set score, get test score, set test score, and average, right? Average here, and the 2 constructors. Those are the 5 test methods you need to test. And let's run it. Okay, if you look at it, this is, it's very informative. I look at this, I know what the program is doing, right? Testing the toString, and then this is the student. This is the default, the original constructor. So test score is 1, it's 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And this one is the new one, the new constructor. So they have the test scores here, right? Okay, and testing the new student method, set test score, set the test score, and test score changed, and he used the get test score to show how it is changed, and then the average. So this is great. Okay, any questions, everybody? That's how this project is done. And I think two of you did the extra credit. One, so I'm not going to show that one, but you did excellent job. Whoever that is, you know who you are. You did the array, right? Using array to do this, that's very good. Okay.
I do have a question. Okay, because you mentioned that if we're doing the extra credit to put yes or no. So does that count even if, because I didn't know to put yes.
I didn't take points off. I think I took 1 or 2 points off for Jesus the first time. He didn't put that. Jesus, did I take points off? I don't remember. I didn't take points off, but make sure you just put yes there, right? Okay.
Well, the only reason I didn't know is because technically I just did the 7.3 that was worth more points. I didn't know that counted. Technically, it was extra credit.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So that's not you then. That's someone else. I don't know. Was I referring?
Well, you wrote on your comment said good job on the extra credit. I was like, oh, I did it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Are we gonna go over the extra credit for chapter 8?
Okay, let's look at chapter 8 then. I'm I'm recording, right, everybody? Yes. Okay, let's look at chapter 8. So we are done with chapter 7, everybody, okay? Chapter 8. Chapter 8. So this is the programming project that's designed by me. So that's why you don't. And also, everybody, make sure you read this so that you know what the purpose of this project, okay? We have, this would be the 4th one. Declare and use constants. Declare and use various array of variable data, various arrays of variable data types, right? So you need to read this to know what the purpose of this project is. Okay, let's look at it. So for this project, it's 100 and 100 to 115 points. The user will be asked to enter his or her monthly earnings for 12 months for years 2018, 2017. The monthly difference between the 2 years will be calculated and all the information will be displayed as follows, okay? So you do not need to display, no, okay, forget about that. So you will get the, okay, that's that. Any questions? You will display the earning for 2018, display the earning for 2017, and display the difference. That's what you will do. Have this heading here, right? Have this heading here. If you absolutely cannot do this, I will take points off, but you still get credits for whatever you do here, everybody. So don't think, oh, I cannot do this January, February, and then you just completely don't do it. Don't do that. Do as much as you can, right? If you don't do all of it, you get points taken off, but you still don't get a 0. So that's that. Okay. I said you do not need borders because if you look at this is from, I made it in Microsoft Word, I think. So you have borders, you don't need that. Okay, that's what I meant. You would need to declare 2 or 3 depending on your taste. You decide, right? Double arrays. What do I mean by double arrays, everybody? What do I mean?
Arrays of type double.
Yes, I think sometimes students misunderstand this as double arrays. 2-dimensional array is not double array. We will learn that today. That's called 2-dimensional array. This is double array. This means an array of double, right? Of double values. So you will need several. You know, I would need one for 2018, one for 2017, one for difference. So, okay. Declare 12 as a constant. And okay, you will look at that. Extra credit. So what's your question? Jesus and Tyler, what are the questions?
For number 1, that's, yeah, that's self-explanatory. But that's just for the average only, right?
Yes, for 2018's average and 2017's average, yes. And then after you display this table, and then you will display 2018 average, you will display the correct average, yes.
Okay, so number 1 and number 2, I understand. I think the problem happens whenever you go into number 3. Okay,
display all values with exactly 3 decimal places, as in this. So 3 decimal places.
And when you say all values, can we scroll back up to the top?
Yeah, I use 2 decimal places, but you will use exactly 3 decimal places. That's what I meant.
So, but like obviously, whenever you're inputting like monthly income for a year, you're only going up to 2. We can still display it as 3. That's fine.
No, when you input the yearly income, the monthly income, you can enter whole numbers, 4 decimal places, which is meaningless, or 2 decimal places.
Correct. Yeah. And then it'll still display as 3.
Now I think back, the 3 decimal places is really not meaningful, right? Because dollars and cents, it's only 2 decimal places. But I'm just making you do the actual work for 5 points. So okay.
That's fine. What about, does number 3 conflict with number 1?
Number one, what does number one say? Okay, besides display, you will also display the average. So this is the average. Oh, okay. You see, I'm just giving you examples. And if you look, everything should be in 3 decimal places.
So including the average, which is in format of.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes. So all of them should be 3 decimal places because this says display all values. Because if you think about it, this is without the actual credit, right? This is without the actual credit. So it's 2 decimal places. And this is just actual credit 1, that's 2 decimal places. And this is actual credit 2. And this is actual credit 3. That's when you display all, I need to go back and change all of them to 3 decimal places. That's what that is.
But so whenever you're displaying or formatting, sorry, a number to like get currency, right? Is currency automatically changing it back to 2?
I don't think so. Then yes, I think so. Yes, I thought you said, does it do 3? Yes, it's 2. So you'll have to use another class. If you go back to chapter 3, I think, right? Chapter 3 or chapter 2, it shows you. Remember, we discussed 2 classes: decimal format and currency number format. So look into those 2 classes. That's why it's, yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, everybody? This actually should be a relatively easy project because I'm telling you, using several arrays of double, and then you will be able to do it. And also, we will go through double arrays today. But also, if you look at our class, I do have these examples here. Okay, one-dimensional array, one-dimensional array, two-dimensional arrays. Arrays compared to classes and chapter 7, it's easier because it's more straightforward. That's that. Okay. So, okay. Any other questions? Okay, two-dimensional array. Okay, so one-dimensional array, you remember how to declare, right? You just do, for one-dimensional array, okay, for this one, if it's an int array, you will do int and make sure you have that there. That means there's an int array, right? And a, and to instantiate equal to new int and make sure you have the size, right? That's how you instantiate.
Professor.
Uh-huh.
Your screen's not, I don't know if you wanted to show your screen, but it's not on.
Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Okay. Okay. So that's how you declare and instantiate an int array, right? Okay. So now you can put the integers there. That's the one-dimensional array. If you look at 2 dimensions, that means you have 2 dimensions. And this is 1 dimension. This is another dimension. Okay. So this array is really, you can call it that this is one element of this array. This is another element of this array. And this is another element of this array. And what is this element for this? What is this element? Is it a string? Is it an int? What is it for this array? For this element, if you look at it, this element itself is an array, okay? If you divide it, right? This is an array. So a 2-dimensional array is an array of arrays. That's what that is. Questions? Okay, so this is the first element. This is the second element, third element, fourth. Okay, so that's the 9 elements. And each element is what? Each element is an array. Okay, and for this array, right, it also, because it's an array, it has a position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like a matrix, right? Okay, so each element is an array also. That's why we call it an array of arrays. So this is the basic array. This is the initial, original array, this row, number of rows. Okay, so you have 9 rows. That means you have 9 elements. That means you have 9 arrays, okay? And for each element, it's an array. So this array has 6 elements. Okay, 9 rows, 9 elements, and each element is an array of 6 elements. So when we reference this location, we will say this is 0 and 0, right? This location is 2 and 1. Okay, that's what that is. So this is how you declare it, okay? Because you have 2 dimensions. This is the first dimension. This is the second dimension. First dimension, second dimension. Let's come back. Suppose this is an int array. How do you declare this? Let's call it A. How do you declare this? You will say int, right? Double equal, oh, A. That's the array name, equals to new, still int. Okay, so what's in this and what's in this? Everybody? What's in this? What's here?
5.
5? Anyone else? What comes here? Look at this one.
6.
So what goes here?
6. Yeah, sorry, it's 6.
6. It's actually 9. That's the first array. That's the original basic array. And the second one is the elements, the array for each element. That's 6. Okay, so you have 9 rows. The row always goes first, everybody. Okay, 9 rows and 6 columns. So row and column. Make sure you remember that. Okay, so this means 12 rows and each row has 50 columns. Okay, and so this means you have 3 rows. That means 3 elements, and each element is an array of 6. So 3 rows, 6 columns. Okay. So this itself means this double dimensional array, 2-dimensional array, right? Okay. And this means the first array, the rows. Okay, the array of integers, 5 rows. This means the rows, okay? And that's how you represent it. This means the actual element. That's the row number and the column number. That gives you the actual integer, the element, right? Okay, that's what that means. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. I'm just having a little bit fun here. So tell me, how do you, okay, let's go back there. Let's look at this again. Oh, okay, I think I misspoke here. When we look at this, this is to initialize this array, right? With 12 rows and 50 columns. And this is actually putting the value at that location, which is at index 3 and 6, row 3, column 6. That is the actual integer value, the int, right? Int. So that's the actual integer value. You are putting it in this variable. And so this notation gives you the actual value, right? So let's look at this. How do you represent this? If this is called, what did I say? February. That is, oh, this is just, I'm asking you to do exercises, right? Okay. So suppose this is you represent this with a 2-dimensional array and it's named the cards. You can look at that. Declare a two-dimensional array named the card. Yeah, let's do this exercise, everybody. Declare a two-dimensional array named the card that can store 4 sweets and 13 cards. How do you do that? Write in the chat. So that is correct. Okay, if you have the semicolon at the end. So given that, let's express this card. How do you assign this value, let's call it ace, to this location? How do you do that? So the array name is card, right? I think I'm doing this exercise a little bit early. Maybe I should, can you do this, anyone? Okay, Aaron again, string, not string. You use the array name. So it would be what? Yes, this time is correct. Yes, that's how you express this one, right? The array name and the indices, row 0, column 0. Let's do this one, spades, ace of spades. How do you do that? Everybody. You don't mind, right? Okay, so this is the correct one, right? For this element, and this is the correct one, yeah, for the second one, for this one, right? For this one. Okay, any questions, everybody? Okay. That if you look at this example, okay, this is how you declare the array. Double two dimension, and that's the name, and you instantiate the size of instantiate the array. And so to deal with a single dimensional array, we use a for loop, right? We go from 0 to the 1 less than the length to access each element. For a two-dimensional array, okay, we use a nested for loop, and this is how it works. Okay, so for row is 0, that should be the very first. So this is 5 and 10. Okay, let's just do this. Not very easy to do. Okay, and this is 10, everybody. I'm trying to draw this as best as I can. Okay, so this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That's the 5 rows. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so that's what this is. When you do this, visualize it. This is what it looks like. And each element will be an int, okay? So in the system, it's not like this. It's just a sequence of data, sequence of bits. But when you graphically look at it, it looks like this, okay? You can imagine it looks like this. So for row is 0, this will, okay, this loop, right? Row is 0, row is less than table.length. Remember, this table itself is the number of rows. That's the basic array, the initial array. So table.length is what? It's 5, right? So table.length gives you the first, the one-dimensional array, which has 5 rows. So this is 5, okay? And so this loop, the outer loop, will go through each row. Okay, and for each row, for row 0, once you are at row 0, you do another loop, which is another for loop. For this for loop, it goes through each element. And remember, each element is an array. So this goes through that array element. and you start at 0, and you go before table sub row, and when row is 0, it's table sub 0 dot length. Table sub 0, this element length is 10, so this is 10. Okay, this is 5, this is 10, and then you come in and you do table 0 and then 0, right? 0, 0. It's equal to 0 times 10 times 0, which gives you a 0. So this location will have a 0. Okay. And then you increment column. Your column now is 1. And you increment column, your column is 1. And then you compare column with table sub row dot length, which is 10. 1 is less than 10, so you come to do this statement again. Row is 0, column is 1, and equals to 0 times 10, which is 0 plus 1, which is 1. So you put this in 0, 1, that's the value of 1. And then you increment column. Column now becomes what? 2, right? And 2 is less than table sub row dot length, which is 10. 2 is less than 10. You come here, row is 0, this is 2. And equals to row times 10 plus 2. So table sub 0 sub 2, which is this location here, and its value is 2. Okay, and then you increment this to 3, and you continue to do, and it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? So when column is 10, okay, so when this is 9, let's do 9. When column is 9, when it's 9, 9 is less than 10, right? This gives you 10. And so 0, 9 is equal to row times 10, which is 0, plus 9, right? That should be a 9. I don't have a 10, everybody. I did it wrong. There shouldn't be a 10. Okay, because there are 10 columns. The last number is 9. So, okay, when it's 9, it's 9, right? And then you increment column. Column now becomes 10. 10 is less than table sub 0 dot length, which is 10. That's not true. You get out. When you get out of this for loop, what do? You increment row. Remember, this incrementation always performs last. So you increment row. Row now becomes 1, okay? So 1 is less than 5. That's true. You come in again, and you restart this for loop. Your column is, your COL column is 0. You start all over again. So 0 is less than table sub 1 dot length. Table sub 1 dot length is still 10, the same actually. And then you come here, this is row 1, column is 0, and 1 times 10 is 10 plus 0, that gives you a 10. That's how this works. Okay, do you want me to go on, or do you feel that you understand how this works, everybody? Do you want me to talk about this more, to do more?
I'm good. I understand it.
Yeah, I think you explained it pretty well.
Okay, anyone else? So this is always done last. So you increment it, now column becomes 10, and you come here, 10 is less than 10. That's not true. You get out of this loop. You go back to the previous loop. You execute the next instruction. The next instruction is this one, right? Remember, this always is the fourth statement. Okay, so you increment row to 2. Now row becomes 2. And 2 is less than 5. That's true. You come here and you restart. Okay, column is 0. Column is less than 10. So you really restart all this now. Okay. Okay, you restart this. So column is 0 less than 10, and you come here, row now is 2, and column is 0, equals to 2 times 10, that gives you 20, plus 0, that gives you 20. So you assign 20 to this location, which is table sub 2 sub 0. Table sub 2 sub 0 is this location, and you assign 20 to it. And that's how you continue to do it. And so when row is 5, you increment it. When it's 5, 5 is less than 5, that's not true. You get out of this loop completely. Okay. And this loop is exactly the same as this one. This is how you process a 2-dimensional array. Okay. And even if you don't quite understand it, I hope you understand it because I use this to explain it, right? And you look at this. This is how you process a 2-dimensional array. And then you just use the syntax, row and column. You can call it I and J. It doesn't matter really. Okay. And then you print it out. What does this do, everybody? When does this statement execute? I'm going to erase everything, right? You understand it. Okay, when does this statement execute, everybody?
At the end of the inner loop, whenever it's done with the column.
Yes, very good. This executes at the end of the inner loop. So when this is done, you print it out. You print out one row. When this is done, okay, you print out an empty space. You go to the next line, basically, for the next row. Okay, so for row 0, you will run the loop how many times? 10 times. For row 1, you will run the inner loop 10 times. For row 2, you run the inner loop 10 times. This loop runs 10 times. This loop runs 5 times. Okay, and this statement will run 5 times. Okay, because this is statement 1, this is statement 2. Okay, and this statement will run after this statement, after this print. This statement will run after this statement. So, okay, any questions about this? And that's the printout, right? So, okay, I'm giving you an exercise. Let's look at, how about you do this? So basically, we are basically done. So I'm going back to do this. Let's do this. Declare a 2-dimensional array named February that stores 4 weeks and each week with 7 days. Okay. The days are represented by a number like a date. So can you do that, everybody? Yeah. Okay, so let's do that. Let's do this first exercise. Write it here, right? Okay, this one. Write it in chat.
Automatically capitalizes it.
Okay. Yeah. When you type your code, when you write your code, make sure you remember all your variables should start with lowercase, and your class names should always be title case. That means capitalize the initial letter of each character of each word. Okay. Okay, very good, everybody. That's correct. So declare a 2-dimensional. Oh, we did that, right? Okay, now let's look at this one. I'm asking you to assign the days to an array named February 2020 and print it out. So do you think, okay, I don't think we have enough time to have you do this. So I will just show it and explain it, everybody, okay? I did it last night, so here it is. Okay, so let's look at it. We want to show something like this, right? We want to show something like this, February 2020, and then the names, and then the dates, and the date starts from here, right? Saturday. So you don't want to show anything for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, okay? So this is what I did. They're int, right? In month, I should call it February. That would be good. And well, why did I, don't confuse this, don't confuse this with this. This I'm telling you 4 weeks and 7 days, right? But here I'm asking you to do something like this, right? This, you look at it, it's 5 rows. So, and 7 columns. So I declared an array with 5 rows and 7 columns. Okay. And because the last one, if you look at it, the last one is 1. And the previous ones don't have any value. So I just did, mine might not be the best way, everybody. If you have time, I know you will do it differently. We all think differently. So I'm just showing you this one way of how I did it. So I assigned a 1 specifically for this location, the last element. Row 1, element 6, column 6, right? That's row 1. That's row 1 and column 6, right? Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's that. And then I'm starting day at 2, okay, because that's 2, right? So actually, if you look at this, once we assign this 1 to the last element, we are done with the first row, right? We are done with this row. So what do we do? That's why I'm starting from 1. So this is showing you, this is to show you, it's a very flexible thing. If you don't need to do anything with row 1, with the first element, just leave it alone and just start with element 2. So I'm starting with element 2. I used I, the variable. This is actually the row, right? Row is 1. I started at row 1, and row is less than month.length. Remember, month is the array name. Its length is 5. That's the number of rows. Okay, this is the number of rows here. And then within this loop, I'm doing another loop. This is for each element, right? For each array, each element, for each column, or you just put it bluntly, for each column. Okay, so we start at 0. We start at 0. This is position 0, right? And we do less than month.I. I originally is 1, and then it will become 2, then it will become 3, then it will become 4. We can use I, the variable. The reason is that this 2-dimensional array, all elements have the same length. All rows have the same length. That's why you, no matter which row you are referencing, its length is always the same, right? In this case, it's 7. Okay, so this will give you row 1's length, which is 7, okay? And so we do month, I, which is 1 the first time, J is 0, is equal to day, okay? I initialize day here to 2, right? So, and then increment day to 3, and then you increment J to 1, right? Original it was, remember these 2 elements, these 2 statements will execute. After this, it will execute this statement, right? And now J will be 1. 1 is less than 7, and now you come here, month sub 0 sub 1 is equal to 3. Month sub 0 sub, did I say 0? Month sub 1 is equal to 3. Sub 1 is equal to 3. And then you increment day to 4, and then you increment J to 2, right? And so 2 is less than 7. You come here, month is, this I is 1 and J is 2. So month sub 1 and 2 is equal to 3. Month sub 4. We did 3. So month 1 and 2 is equal to 4. That's how this is done. Do you understand this, everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Okay. Everybody else? Any code you want me to explain? As I said, if I gave you time, you might do it. You can do it, but you might do it differently. It's understanding other people's logic. Sometimes it's very difficult. You know, that's why you look at Democrats and Republicans, they just argue and debate all the time, because each side is trying to have the other side look at things their way, and it's difficult, I'm telling you. So, okay, I hope you understand this logic. And then I'm printing out February 2020, just using tabs, right? Just using tabs. And then I did this in a simple way, just did it that way. You can also declare a string array and put the 7 days there and print it out. I just did it the very easy way, using a tab to separate them, right? So that you have the tab. Okay, print it out, the title. So these are the headers. And then print out. So what I did is because this I cannot print out anything, right? Because it's empty. Only this element we print 1. So I'm doing a for loop starting from 0 and I is less than 6. And so you will print out 6 elements. Print out nothing and a tab, right? For the first 6 elements, I'm printing out nothing and a tab. So notice that I'm not dealing with it as an array. If I did deal with it as an array, the element value would be 0. So I'm just doing a for loop just for displaying purpose. This is just displaying nothing, a space and a tab, just to match this, right? To match that, try to match that. And then print out the last one. And notice here I use the print, right? So that it stays on the same line. And the print line, so that it goes to the next line. Print out the last element, which is 1, which is here, right? Okay. And then here, this is the for loop, the nested for loop, okay? Once again, I start at row 1, month.length, and start from column 0 and sub-i.length, and print out month, row, and column plus a t. That gives you the value for each element, right? The value. So let's see. It doesn't look very good, but it's okay. It gets the idea across, okay? So that's what it looks like, right? So this is a 2-dimensional array, and I'm illustrating how to do this. So the main thing for this is you really need to understand how this for loop works, okay? The nested for loop. Understand the first for loop, the outer for loop, is for what? For the number of rows. This goes through the rows. For each row, it goes through every element, every cell, every element in the array, in that individual array. Remember, this is an array of 5 arrays, right? This is an array of 5 arrays. So this first, why does it not? Oh, that's strange. It doesn't go to my, that's very strange. Okay, so this goes through the number of rows, the whole array, the original array, the 1-dimensional array, and this goes through each element of 5 individual arrays, right? It goes through each element of the 5 individual arrays. Or, this is how you reference each cell. if you call this a cell, right? Each cell, you know, each element. If you think about spreadsheet, Excel, it's a cell, okay? And once again, this is to go to the next line, okay? So after each row, this is for each row, the element of each row. After each row, you print out a new line character and you go to the next row. So this is the next row. When I say this is each row, I'm saying each element of that row, okay? Each element of row 1, each element of row 2, each element of row 3. So, okay, any questions, everybody?